All right, in this video, we'll look at unit goal 3 of the Systems of Equations and Matrices unit we've been working on. Unit goal 3 is about performing operations on matrices. There's basically two big matrix operations we'll go over, matrix addition and matrix multiplication. Matrix multiplication actually gets broken up into two separate types. One type is called scalar multiplication, and the other type is actually multiplying matrices together. So in this unit, we're going to look at adding matrices together, multiplying matrices together, and doing something called scalar multiplication. I'm going to save the multiplication for the next video. So here we'll just look at performing matrix addition. And matrix addition is one of the easiest things we do. So hopefully you'll find this video easy. Hopefully it'll be shorter than some of the other ones. And the worksheet hopefully will be pretty easy to do for you. So let's talk about doing matrix addition. So if you're going to do any matrix operations, you need to first check the dimensions of the matrix. So the dimensions are just the size of the matrix. Basically, we define the dimensions to be m by n, where m and n are numbers. What are those numbers? Well, m is the number of rows the matrix has, and n is the number of columns. You were using this if you were putting in the calculator the matrix. You had to tell it how big to make it. So it's the same measurement. So this is called the dimensions of the matrix. And basically, if you know how many rows it has and how many columns, we call it the number of rows by the number of columns. So m by n in this case. All right. In order to do matrix operations, you need to check the dimensions of the matrix first, because certain operations only work with certain sizes of matrix. So you need to check that the matrix have the right size, that your matrix has the correct size, or if you have several matrices, that they have the right size criteria to be able to go on and do the operation. All right. So now we've talked about dimensions, let's talk about addition. So say matrix addition was one of the easiest things we do in the entire course, because basically we're just adding two matrices together. To do that, the two matrices, in order for them to be added, they have to have the same dimensions. So if your matrices don't have the same dimensions, you can't perform matrix addition. But if they do have the same dimensions, here's the easy part. If they do, it says at the bottom there, each entry of one matrix gets added to the entry in the same position in the other matrix. And basically you make a new matrix the same size with the corresponding entries added together. All right, so easiest things to look at a couple examples. And here is a really simple example of a 2 by 1 matrix. That's what the left one is. So it's got 2 rows and 1 column. And then I'm going to add it to another matrix that has 2 rows and 1 column. So these are two very small matrices. The first thing you got to check is, are they of the same size? Yes, they're both 2 rows and 1 column. So they're both 2 by 1 matrices. I can add them. So then how do you add them? Well, this is the easy part. You just add their corresponding entries. So I'm going to add the 1 and the 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. And it gives me, I'm going to fill in a new matrix that's the same size as these. So since these are both 2 by 1 matrices, I'm going to get another 2 by 1 matrix. And I'm going to fill it in with the entries added. 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5. So my answer is going to be another matrix that is 2 by 1. And just has the added entries in it. So if you can do addition and subtraction, I should mention it's called matrix addition, but you can do the same thing with subtraction. Basically, remember, subtraction is just addition by negatives. So even though they call it matrix addition, you can also perform subtract. If this were a minus sign, you could just do 1 minus 2 and get -1, and 3 minus 2 and get 1. So realize subtraction works the same way as addition. All right. But it's this easy. So I'll show 1 or 2 more examples, and then that'll be it. So here I have 2 matrices. The first one is now 3 by 2, and the second one is 3 by 2. So once again, I check that to make sure they're the same size. Once I know they're the same size, all I have to do is add their corresponding entries. I'm going to get, for my answer matrix, another 3 by 2 matrix. And what entries is it going to have? It's just going to have the entries of these added together. So the top left corner, for example, 3 plus 7 are the 2 top left corners. They're going to add together to be 10, which is the top left corner of the new one. So 3 plus 7 is 10. 4 plus -2 is 2, and 5 plus 5 is another 10, and so on. So here's the answer matrix. All I did was just add the numbers together that were in the same position and put their answer in the position that they came from. So like the last one, 0 plus 0 is 0, 3 plus 1 is 4, and just filled them all in. All right. And once again, so long as they're the same size, you do this. The only thing that might make it a little tedious is if the matrices were large. If you had a 10 by 20 matrix plus a 10 by 20 matrix, you'd be doing a lot of addition. But that's all you're doing is just adding the corresponding entries and putting them in. A 10 by 20 matrix or something of that size would have a lot of entries, and specifically would have 200 entries you'd have to figure out. But I'm not going to give you one that big. So anyway, hopefully that's enough examples. That's all you're doing. There is one last thing just to realize, make sure you know when you can't do it. So in this problem, the matrices are not of the same dimensions. The first matrix is a 2 by 3 matrix, where the second one is a 3 by 1 matrix. They're not the same size. If they're not the same size, you can't perform the operation. It doesn't make sense to add these together. So my answer to this is there is no answer. I basically tell someone I can't add. If someone wants, why can't you do this? You just tell them, well, in order to add matrices, they have to be the same size, and these aren't the same size. So I say I can't add. Why? Because one matrix is 2 by 3, where the other is 3 by 1. Their dimensions don't match. You don't have to do anything. So it's important you check the dimensions, all right? So that ends this video on matrix addition. Like I said, the next one will have something called scalar multiplication and matrix multiplication, where we'll multiply the matrices together. There are rules about the sizes on matrix multiplication, so they're a little different than the addition, though. So just make sure you understand that with addition, they gotta be the same size. There'll be a different rule for multiplication. But that ends this video. All right, so you should find the attached worksheet. It's got 4 of these problems. Just make sure you can do the addition and then do it, and that should be good. All right. Until next time, have a good one.